Hello, Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here. I am in New Smyrna Beach. I made it safely coming down to Florida for this historic, perhaps unprecedented, don't like to use that term too often, but the sheer size and the longevity of what has been a powerful Category 5 Hurricane Irma deserves the respect of these big words associated with historic, legendary hurricanes, and none of this is positive. We're not talking about, did you see that incredible movie? This is very serious, and it's going to change lives. I made it to Florida safely, and I appreciate all of the support from people along the way on all kinds of levels. I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end, but I'm here, so let's talk about Irma. Now the storm surge and hurricane warnings have been issued for South Florida and the Florida Keys. We will investigate exactly what that means in detail in just a moment. The winds are still 165 knots. They've dropped a little bit, and the pressure is 920 millibars, so it is still a Category 5. And when I show you the satellite picture here, it is as round as it's been in a while. Look at that round buzzsaw look to it right there. That's absolutely incredible. It has lost a little bit of its deeper reds, but that might be temporary. And look at the eye, it's just as round as it can be. Obviously not as perfectly defined. And we're talking meteorology here, and maybe the words that I'm using are not exactly where they should be, the words like perfect, etc. And I don't mean any disrespect at all to people who've been affected by this, but from the meteorological perspective, this is a well-developed hurricane, but not quite as developed, only by a little bit, as it was when it smashed through portions of the northern Leeward Islands yesterday. But look at the outflow associated with this, really fanning out, incredible outflow, breathing out, if you will, just expanding. Unbelievable to see this. It is just amazing, but the consequences of it are going to be catastrophic for some areas. You can see it's moving and has moved over some of these islands of the Turks and Caicos, and it's got this direct beeline for the Florida Straits up here, and then I guess it looks like a landfall in South Florida here, where a lot of people live, and there is a lot of vulnerability there. So let's go through the public advisory here, and I will update you on a few things in detail. First of all, we went over all of the wind and the movement. The bearing is still 290. It says moving at west-northwest there. What we need to look out for, and as I've watched these over the decades, let's see if this starts to go down again, that 290, the bearing, to a more westerly course. And if it does that, a lot of times they tend to strengthen when that happens. I can't explain why, but we see that turn, and I've learned a lot of this from Joe Bastardi, who used to be at AccuWeather, now he's at Weatherbell, and you see these bends back, and you can see that in the modeling and a little bit in the forecast track. Andrew did that. It bent back to the west, and it became extremely powerful, and this one's already that powerful. It's already still, as it's weakened, at least as powerful as Andrew was and a lot larger. So let's look at the warnings. A storm surge warning has been issued from Jupiter Inlet southward around the Florida Peninsula to Bonita Beach, as well as for the Florida Keys, of course. And the hurricane warning for hurricane conditions, also Jupiter Inlet southward around to Bonita Beach and the Florida Keys, including Lake Okeechobee and Florida Bay. And the east coast of Florida now, a storm surge watch from Jupiter Inlet to Sebastian Inlet, and for the west coast of Florida, north of Bonita Beach, all the way up to Venice. So we are starting to really increase with these watches and warnings here, and then you get into the hurricane watch area. We're talking about Bonita Beach on the west side all the way up to Anna Maria Island, and the hurricane watch Jupiter Inlet to Sebastian. So it is getting to be encompassing more of the Florida coastline, these watches and warnings, because this massive hurricane is headed our way. And I say our because I'm down here now. A lot of information in this public advisory right there. That's what it's called, the public advisory, if you want to read it. A lot of great information, but it's very detailed. And I'm going to show you starting tomorrow, where you can find even more detailed information for your local community. I do want to read the area, what we call the hazards affecting land, and we're going to get to that. First of all, hurricane force winds have expanded now out to 75 miles from the center, so the hurricane force wind field is getting larger. Luckily, the tropical storm force winds still 185 miles out from the center. The hazards affecting land, the Jupiter Inlet to Bonita Beach area, maybe 5 to 10 feet of surge, and this is above ground. 10 feet above ground if the peak surge occurs at the time of high tide. So let's make sure we understand that. That is the water level. If you were standing out there and you were 5 feet tall, you'd be underwater at certain spots, not everywhere. This is what the modeling is showing us, and we have this range of 5 to 10 feet. But the thing I need to emphasize with you is that is above ground, heights above ground. So these could start going up. We'll have to see as it moves and the modeling changes. Perhaps more surge in Collier and Monroe. We'll have to see on the southwest coast. This is going to be changeable, so we need to watch this. The hazards affecting land. Turks and Caicos, central southeastern Bahamas, up to 20 feet. That is just unthinkable. It really is. That's a 2-story building, all right, that the water rises, and on top of that you have battering, incredible, damaging waves. So let's see if the map has been updated, the tracking map. I certainly hope so. Nope, it's still the 11 o'clock. Oh, you saw this earlier today when I did the update. So we're going to come back because there is other activity to talk about. And then we'll talk about the track map with this, okay? I don't want to ignore the fact that we do have Hurricane Jose, which is a 120-mile-per-hour hurricane. There's the tropical storm force wind field. And this is headed in the general direction of the northern Lesser Antilles. But the official forecast keeps it, the core of it, away from making a direct hit, which, needless to say, is, show some mercy, Mother Nature, okay? And maybe we will get that. But I'm telling you, you got to watch what happens when it lingers around out here. You never know. You remember 2004? I know you do in Florida. Weird things happen when these hurricanes get left behind and ridges build over the top. Jose is going to be here long after Irma fades into the incredible hurricanes of all time history book. Unfortunately, I think that's going to happen. So we got to watch Jose. But for you folks down here and people that are worried sick about folks in the Lesser Antilles, St. Martin, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Bartolome, Anguilla, those islands, St. Croix, all of those areas that were so impacted the other day, yesterday, and through the night before, it looks as if right now, you know what, I'm going to zoom on this just a little bit. Luckily, the core should stay just far enough away to avoid more absolute misery, but it's not a guarantee. All right, so we have to watch this very closely. We need to relay information to these people. Hopefully amateur radio is working. This is a really, really tough situation down here with people stuck in the most miserable of conditions. And so I'm going to stay on top of this and focus on it intently, similar to what we're doing here with Irma. Let's see if the map updated. Come on, work with me here, Mr. Map. I think it did. Yes. Okay, so this is the 11 o'clock advisory package, updated track chart from the National Hurricane Center. Let's see if we get the whole thing. Good. All right, so what do we see here? Let's zoom in. I really want to analyze this and help you understand the next few days here. All right, so let's zoom in. And the current position and the wind field you can see right here. All right, tropical storm force winds, hurricane force winds here. We see that this moves off to the west-northwest, but then there's this little bit of a subtle bend. It's hard to tell, but it's there. It comes very, very close to the northern part of the Cuban coastline, where a significant storm surge can be pushed out ahead and onto the shoreline there. And then this remarkable and unfortunate jump right up into the Florida Peninsula over Lake Okeechobee. I need to plead to people in these areas, especially Lake Okeechobee, and in the storm surge areas especially, you could drown in this storm surge. It is extremely important to evacuate if people in your neighborhood, if you're getting alerts on your phone, if the government is telling you, and if you don't know you're in an evacuation zone or not, ask. I can't help everybody down there, unfortunately, understand, but you evacuate to keep from drowning usually, unless you are in a home or a building that you just don't feel safe in. You should go ahead and leave tomorrow. Get ahead of everything. Don't wait. But for those of you that are at risk from storm surge along Lake Okeechobee and along some of these areas where the surge can be as much as 10 feet, you have to go. I'm sorry, you just have to go. And, the hurricane warning goes all the way around here to include Naples, Marco Island, Everglades City, Florida Bay down here. This is the worst that we have seen since Andrew, and maybe worse than that when all is said and done. And on top of it, it's large, and a massive surge is going to be headed this way, funneled in here through the Florida Straits, the Keys. This is it. You've got to go or you could die. And I'm sorry, and maybe I'm not sorry. I have to motivate you if somebody else isn't. If you think, well, this isn't a big deal, this is the biggest deal ever for you in this generation, so please take it seriously. I also want to address all the people that live up the middle of Florida into Georgia here. This is absolutely just a horrible situation, because all of this area is going to, I don't want to say be laid to waste, but the power outages and the massive disruption in traffic, commerce, fuel supplies, it's like cutting off your escape route. All the people that are going to be hit down here, help trying to come in from the north, you got to wait for the hurricane to get out of the way. I'm going to be stuck down here somewhere, perhaps, unless I can get all of my equipment running and get the heck out of here. I'm at a loss. This is horrible. And rarely, not since Katrina and the '05 season that brought us Katrina and Rita and Wilma, among others. This is absolutely just stunning, and it's going to move into Georgia here, and trees will fall. There'll be tornadic cells that develop. Just a terrible, terrible mess coming through. So I beg of you, we get excited about tracking hurricanes like people get excited about blizzards. Well, blizzards kill people, but people don't get upset about people being excited about blizzards. It's interesting when you get all like, wow, there's a hurricane coming. That's interesting. This is like nothing we have seen in a long, long time. It's happened in the past. Don't get me wrong, but not in this generation. All right, so we went over Jose. I want to go over Katia. And this should update as well. The Hurricane Center site, you can imagine just getting pounded. Maybe one more try here, because this is important. There we go. So Katia, winds are up to 85 miles per hour, and it's going to move to the southwest here and make landfall in Mexico. It's supposed to strengthen just a little bit. Recon is on its way to check it out. And this will have some major impacts with storm surge on the onshore flow. Remember, this is moving southwest. Oh, look at that. The Hurricane Center site timed out. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So, again, folks in Mexico, don't want to ignore you at all. This is a problem, and some of the storm surge values could be life-threatening as well. One of the other things about Irma that we need to talk about, why it could get stronger from here, it's going to pass really close to the coast of Cuba, no doubt, but from 24 to 48 hours here, it's hard to see. I'm going to zoom in. This comes from our, we put this in our app, the Hurricane Impact app. We generate the plots over the top of the NOAA upper ocean heat content map. And if you look, it's going to pass. This is where it is now. And these dots here show it moving over warmer and warmer upper ocean heat content values, if you can believe that. And some of these are approaching the top third of the scale. Just what else can go wrong with this system? It's just horrible. And that's the energy that could make this possibly make landfall as a Category 5. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It's made it this far. Look at all of those 5s starting there, and it has never wavered. Disruption coming off of these land masses here might do something, but Cuba starts to thin out just enough. I don't know. I mean, it's just terrible. So don't try to second guess it. Please, you have to be very careful. All right, so real quick, I want to talk about the app just to keep mentioning it. This is getting ready to come to life. It's been in the informational mode with videos, Twitter access, etc., the tracking. But once I start setting out these camera systems, this app, the iPhone app, Hurricane Impact, it's available on the Apple App Store. We do have an Android version, and we're trying to update it, but it may not be in time. Funding has kept it from staying updated compared to the iOS app. So just full disclaimer there, okay? Disclosure as they call it. But the iPhone app works fantastic. And once we start putting the instrumentation and the camera systems out, you're going to want to, let me go back over here and pull up the right graphic. These areas right down here. The news is what it's in now. Tracking is what we do now. The videos, we can watch everything I do. It's all aggregated in the app. The Twitter stuff. And let me just say this real quick. Use that. The Twitter link in there on the home page, everything I post on Twitter goes right there. And you can click on the hyperlinks, and it takes you into Safari to open them, and you can go right back into the app. It's very convenient, and I want to be able to help you, for your $4 that you're giving to me to support our work here. I can update this message, of course, but I'm going to tell you, the live cams and the weather data will be unlike anything that's out there from any other app, and that's where this is really going to shine. So go to the App Store and search for Hurricane Impact. This is what it looks like. The logo, red and black and white, unmistakable, and you will have the absolute most incredible, in-your-face, technologically advanced live feeds and live data as long as the network stays up, and we're going to spread them out all over the place to increase the odds. It'll just be amazing, and you can't really, I mean, come on, for $4, it's $3.99, and it really helps our future. A lot of people have been asking, how can I help you out? Even a lady from upstate New York gave a donation on contribution from PayPal, all the way from upstate New York. It just shocked me, the generosity of people. We're helping out our fellow Americans after disasters. I am crowdfunded. This is my job. Some people think this is my hobby or it's just some kind of a gig. No. This is my full-time job, and we have sort of moved out of the era of big corporate partnerships and whatever, because there haven't been any hurricanes to speak of to really, I guess, motivate them to do it. Story for another day, but it's up to you guys now. Crowdfunding right there. So if you help me, I can help you. I don't like having to talk about the business side of it, but if I don't, nobody else will. So there you go. I'm safe and sound. I can't believe how fast I got here. I-95 South was, and I'm not saying I sped either. In fact, I usually go slower than the speed limit. But people were just, in the northbound lanes, nobody was panicking. I didn't hear people beeping and honking and giving people the finger. Gas stations everything was running smooth. Some stations were out. Some stations were crowded. I didn't see any problems. I was very impressed. I hope it stays that way. And maybe I saw an oasis or something and I got lucky, so to speak. But I made it. I'm in New Smyrna Beach. Tomorrow, Zach Fradella, our colleague and friend and meteorologist from New Orleans, will do an early morning update. I'm going to do another update after the Euro comes out and post that. And then I'm going to get about 8 hours of sleep. And when I do that, I'll turn into Superman. Not literally, of course, but it'll make me feel so energetic to get that sleep. And then I can go out and I can lay equipment in front of this hurricane and document it and bring it to you in the app and on our subscriber site like you have never seen before, and really show people the fury of this using technology. That's my goal. So thank you for following along. Thank you for the support, the encouragement. The funding helps, of course. That's what makes the world go round. But your interaction with me and you telling me how much you appreciate what I do, that means a lot to me and the people that are behind me. Not physically, but you know what I'm saying. I'm the front man of the front man of the band, but I've got a great group behind me. Absolutely, positively. You all know who you are, and I thank you. Time to get some work done and look at what's happening in the future with this. The models are going to start coming out. One more time, I'm going to remind you, I will have another video update after the Euro finishes. It'll be much shorter and to the point. This is a big one because we had to cover a lot. I'm Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com reporting from New Smyrna Beach, Florida, where I was for Matthew. I'll have more for you after the European model finishes its runs through about 120 hours, and I'll post a video discussion for you then.